We are live.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. I am Chris Cahill from The Art of Being Psychic, and I'm here with my colleagues Kate Carden and Ryan Fukuda. And we promised you another discussion a couple weeks ago when we were talking about endings. If you didn't catch that last live that we did, it's been posted in my Substack here, and also in either of yours too, I believe. You guys have it. So tonight we have a discussion that we want to get into that's really about spiritual communities, belonging to spiritual communities. And I just want to introduce it just a little bit. And I think it might be kind of neat if either one of you feel like saying like what your own personal experience has been, or just like different, if you feel like saying anything about that,
Mhm,
like groups you belong to, what you were looking for. I
mhm.
know that having been raised in a particular religion and a neighborhood that was all that religion, it was a Catholic neighborhood, I was kind of pretty much over it by the time I was not even out of grammar school. I liked the people and I liked that there was a community, but I didn't like the rules, and I didn't really believe all the things that I was being taught. I kind of saw through it pretty young. But then that always made me feel a little bit like I didn't belong to something. And many years later, fast forward, when I ended up at a psychic school in Chicago, and it just really felt like a good fit. It was a wonderful fit, and it was a community. It was something that ended up becoming, kind of like a go to for that particular need, that community need. And I wasn't looking for someone to tell me what to believe or what to think, but I wanted to belong to a group, I realized when I was there, which kind of surprised me. And then I'm not going to give away the whole story, but years later, I decided that wasn't a good fit anymore and moved on to go find others, like minded people or people who I could actually trust a bit more. And I think for me, one of the big things was feeling like I couldn't trust some of the people in the group I had belonged to. Yeah, I don't regret it. I'm grateful for it, but it brought up a whole thing. And when all three of us are talking about completing a particular group that we've been part of for a while, which nobody has a negative attitude about, like it was a really positive experience. And then it brings up questions like, well, if it was such a positive experience, why are you ending it? So we talked about endings 2 weeks ago. And now I'm just kind of going on and
No,
around and
thank you.
around in
Yeah,
this,
that's great.
but it is a thing, like why, I guess that kind of brings that discussion into this too. I think this whole community that we've had together for a while has been a real positive experience,
Mhm,
mostly because nobody was trying to tell anybody what they should believe or think or how
mhm,
they should behave
mhm.
or any of that, or using different kinds of coercive controls or shame to shut people down. It was one of the most positive spiritual community experiences I've had in my life so far. So I want
Oh,
to pass that forward. Yeah, go ahead.
no, that was an awesome intro. That was a great way to start. And I didn't even think about this. I was thinking about like you went back to the beginning, which is like you're a part of a like more of a religious community first before really stepping out of all that. But yeah, and I remember my first spiritual community growing up, going to like a Japanese American Christian church, and it being such a welcoming community actually, and growing up around different families or and friends and family friends and things like that, and being able to see that spiritual community can be a place that you can go to for whether it's comfort or whether it's something where you're supporting each other in some way, and sharing like kind of a in a way a belief system or a way of being in life, which is pretty amazing actually.
Yeah.
And noticing like or feeling like, oh yeah, like I've been on this trajectory of people who can actually like that have like their own compass, their own like way of being able to like be in a group, but also individually, like really focusing individually or inward in what they believe is true for themselves. And so the church that I went to growing up, they weren't kind of giving into this idea of like, oh yeah, like the Bible says this, and therefore that's it, right? There was this, I like they what was really cool about the church that I went to is they investigated this more, and they wanted to see like what else is there, like what else is out there, and what can we do to continue this practice of like, Christianity, but also like there's more to it. It's not just that, right? And so they
Yeah.
that was, I just realized that and forgot about that. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
welcome.
yeah. But I'd say, yeah, I've had a lot of positive experiences around spiritual community. I think, finding your people is pretty amazing. Like when, like-minded people are people who, you're going on a journey together, right? And there is, groups that stay together for a long time, and then there's groups that there's an expiration date. And so there's like, yeah. So I think my experience around spiritual communities has been mostly positive. I'm also interested in this idea of spiritual communities too, in current times, and like how
Right.
people are viewing it, because there is a lot going on in the world right now, and groups or spiritual communities or just communities in general is something that we all are sort of gravitating towards, or sort of we want that connection, but sometimes there's not that trust or that shared agreement
Yeah.
of like, how can we be together and still sort of have our own purpose, or have our own goals, or have our own dreams, and it not be, that it could be separate from the group, and but it could be collectively something that
Mhm.
supports everybody, right? So that's something that I'm thinking about when it comes to spiritual communities right away. I'll pass it over to you, Kate, if you want
Right.
to.
Let's see. So I grew up in Utah as a non-member of the dominant church here, and so so I always felt very kind of separated from the spiritual community, and always really kind of wanting to find spiritual community. And honestly, when I think about it, it's like I've kind of had more like individual people that I kind of connected with and shared spiritual kind of ideas with, I think more than a community. And then the other kind of community, I guess it's kind of funny, but like my first step into meditation was Vipassana meditation, which was
Mhm.
literally just a 10-day silent retreat. Um, you meditate for like 10 hours a day for 10 days straight, and you don't talk to anybody. So I was kind of so I was kind of like part of that Vipassana meditation community, but in a way, like, you don't talk to people when you go to the retreats, right? So you talk to them after, and you make friends, and there's like a little bit of like a community with it, and like that. But it's kind of different than, say, the community that we have all been a part of, where there's a lot more communication and you're seeing each other kind of more often, right? So yeah, so I kind of went from like this Vipassana meditation community to like the community that we're in now. So and they've all been great experiences for me. But yeah, I think when I think about my my spiritual community experience, it's always been positive, really. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a topic that I'm curious about, right? Like I feel like
Mhm.
because most of my childhood was not feeling a part of the community that I was living
Yeah.
around. So yeah.
Yeah. And for me, that while I didn't feel like I didn't belong to the community, I also felt like I was so separate. Maybe that's what you're saying too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's something that came up though, and Ryan, you brought it up, and I'm really happy to hear both your stories because I we don't, as much as we talk about so many things, we don't really go back into a lot of
Yeah.
that. I mean, it
Mhm.
comes up as clairvoyants and as teachers, it will come up in different ways that we talk about it with students or that we've taught. And nobody making anyone's community incorrect or wrong because everybody wants something different. But then there's also the unconscious or the unspoken things where people might come into a community and assume something because it's something that they came from before. So I have found that, and I really like the way that we have done this. We've all become really clear about this, being really clear about, well, what's the agreement? What are
Hmm.
the agreements we have? Like what are we agreeing to do or to be? And some of that might be unspoken because it's kind of assumed. Like I'm going to assume that if you're an adult showing up for a class in a community, then you're gonna do your own work. I mean, because that's where I'm coming from. But we've said
Hmm.
it too, like where some people might go into a class or a group, and we don't need to go on and on about this, but expect that it's going to be all kind of handed to them in a different way,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
we've all had discussions about this over the years as we've been evolving and kind of transforming evolving how we're teaching, what the words are, the pictures, really as
Hmm.
clairvoyants, what are the pictures we're teaching from? And so we've changed a lot of that because the culture's changing. We're evolving. There's different ways of discussing things. We're not spiritually bypassing. That's like one of the agreements
Hmm.
of the group we have been part of, where other groups, they're going to do that. So you have to decide, like, what is it you're looking for?
Hmm.
To me, it really comes down to, how does my body feel in this group? Do I feel safe? Do I feel like I can trust these people? And that everything that I feel working with the groups, that with all of you, that's been part of it. We've been creating space for people to come in and have their experience in a group, but then also where they can go and feel that for themselves, like create what they want, on some level, like not have to believe what I'm saying. Um, like I'm not expecting students to take my words as that's how it always is.
Yeah.
I'm coming from, this is a safe space, but you get to go find your own information too. But here, this is where we're starting from, but eventually you're going to find your own way too.
Yeah. I feel like you're speaking to that idea too of like when a group or spiritual group has like a shared language too. Like just because you have a shared language doesn't mean that this is a place where then, oh my gosh, like I don't know, can I trust this? You know what I mean? Like um, I think can find trust actually when there's something very clear and something very much like, okay, like I understand what this thing is, right? And so then I can step into this and feel confident that maybe something like that I can trust this group, and also I can grow and change and be like have the like meet the goals that I want to meet as somebody who's a part of this group, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, and I think that's always one of the things that I appreciated about the group that we've been in, and just learning clairvoyance in that group, is that you go in and there are these like shared tools and this shared language or whatever, but it's always came across as it's an art form, and so you get to have your own answers, you get to see things a different way, and that has always been very supported. And at first, I think it's hard to do that, but then eventually you get it and you're like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I have my own answers, right?" Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because people will get often be, and I understand this, like they're wanting the training wheels to still be on.
It's art,
Like,
yeah.
tell me
Hmm.
which direction I go in. I'm like, keep trying that direction, but what if you changed it? You're not going to
Right.
hurt anything.
Yep.
I still
Hmm.
remember, there's just this hilarious memory just came back to me when you said that, Kate. Sixth grade in the Catholic school that I was going to, and it was art class, and they put the worst nun possible in charge of art class. She had no humor, she was like in rigid, and she puts a vase with flowers in front of the group and says, and I was sitting there thinking, oh great, I get to like make a still life, and I already had made it completely different looking from what the vase was. And she looked at all of us and said, make it exactly like this, same colors. And I was just sitting there going, whoa, I better not get creative. It's so funny.
That's
But I
funny.
feel like that sometimes can be like, she thought she was doing us a favor. You're going to learn how to draw. And I was just thinking, what a limitation. But I think that can
Hmm.
also be the case when we come from that rigidity in some kinds of groups.
Yeah. can I open it up a little bit too to this idea that in 2026, and I think ever since the pandemic, I feel like spirituality and energy work has really opened up in many ways, and so the spiritual community has really become like an online thing, right? Like people are really connecting on social media, connecting in these spaces that are maybe in person but mostly really social media. And so I feel like the way kind of what we're talking about, like there's this sort of shared space or language, and there's all the and really coming together, especially as psychic teachers. I feel like things are changing so much, and I'm really just we don't have to unpack it all today, but I'm really interested in your perspectives around this, like this idea that like people are starting to or not starting to, or continuing to explore what does it mean to work with energy? What does it mean to heal? I mean, even therapy is like a
Yeah.
big thing right now, right? And it's like, and this idea that like we don't, we want to find our community, but then we don't really validate individualism. So there's a lot of things kind of happening right now. It feels a little weird. It feels like you don't really know what to do right now as somebody who's sensitive to energy. And so I'm wondering what you all kind of think about that a little bit.
Well, what immediately comes up is just the extremes with that. So there's the extreme rigidity of the groups that are really sticking to old school, like maybe like very old school types of different sorts of religious programming and belief systems. And then there's the
Mhm.
opposite of what you're saying, which is it's like everybody taking all that apart, almost like taking apart a tapestry and pulling out the threads and saying, well, how do we want to reweave this? But it doesn't have to be just one picture. And then there's
Mhm.
also the fact that the planet needs us to pay attention. We need to pay attention to other people, to human rights, to all these things, which is where, there are some, kind of new agey type or spiritual groups that ignore all that. They're like, if we
Mhm.
just work from the highest vibration, we'll all be great. Everybody's one. I'm like, yeah, but there's a
Mhm.
body here. We have
Yep.
bodies. And so I tend to look at it for everyone's kind of finding all the pictures. And I love it. It's
Mhm.
really interesting to me. And I see
Yeah.
there's so much more room for there to be this kind of fluid organic flow. So it's not just like a whole bunch of groups that are, like even separate from each other. I love the witches. They are
Yeah.
amazing. I
Yes.
love them. And it's just so much fun to get into a thread where they're talking about who they're going to hex now. And they're not doing mean negative things.
So
It's more
funny.
like stopping somebody from doing negative things. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I'd be following y'all witches. But it's
It's
fun.
awesome.
I'm looking at it, I see it as like, and I don't think this is answering you at all, Ryan, necessarily. I'm going on about this, but that it looks like there's a flow here. We're creating like different ways of seeing how do we want to be together, but we have to include living on the planet together.
Yeah.
That's
No,
how,
that really does answer a lot of what I was asking. Yeah. What about you, Kate?
Yeah,
Anything?
I don't know. I have to admit, I'm not on social media as much as
Yeah.
I
Right.
very well could be. Um, but it's just interesting to me because it makes me think of something that I listened to a while, quite a few years ago about just, how we kind of make these groups with people that are just around us. And
Hmm.
so I think as the world gets bigger and smaller at the same time, I think and as all these systems that we're talking about are kind of breaking down and needing to be reformed and everything, right? Like it is nice to have the internet to be able to connect in ways that kind of work for us, I guess. I guess that's how I think of it. And,
Hmm.
probably for me, like, I don't know, in some ways I wish that it wasn't social media. Because I would, like just that's just me. But I do definitely feel that there is a need for community and
Hmm.
you can't always find it where you're at in a physical location.
Right.
And so I think everybody in some ways, I think people are kind of scrambling to figure out like who they can jive with, right? In everything, just because of the way that everything is now, right?
Yeah, because and I love that answer too, because what we're coming from spiritual communities that could be brick and mortar, or they
Yeah.
could be online, but they're really consistent in some way. And I think that's part of what's changing so much. It's not that people are flaky or inconsistent or whatever. It's that there is such a positioning or recreating,
Hmm.
and I certainly don't have an answer. I mean, we've been, we talked about this, all of us too, like the people who we've been in community with, how that's all changing. But
Hmm.
but we're all continuing to create different places online. People will come, and but it's not like I'm saying you have to sign up with me and you can't go to anybody else. It's simply there's a lot of shifting like that. People, I think, have more permission now to try a lot of different things and see what's going to work.
Which makes a lot of sense, right? With all the shifting that's happening, like
Yeah.
we have to, yeah. Do we have to,
Mm-hmm.
can we be like fluid and flexible, right?
Right.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I think it's the flexibility and that hybrid
Yeah.
experience versus just one or the other.
It's one or the other,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, and especially now, I think as we continue to evolve technologically, especially with AI and stuff like that, I feel like people are going to desire more in person. I feel like that's my prediction, as I think that like people are going to want to be around people, and
Sure.
that's not an easy thing, but it's something that I think bodies together in a space. Like we are humans and we do want this, right? Like we do want connection in some ways. And
Yeah.
so it's going to be interesting to see how we get to still work together in some way apart, in different spaces, right? Meaning different cities and different countries, things like that. And then also having our local community and how we're able to cultivate that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that being with each other, I think, is going to be the thing. I feel like, especially in the next so many years, because I think people are going to be tired of being online so much. And I feel like people already are,
Totally.
but it's like it's the place to be, right?
Right.
It's like the place to find your community, except for like I think there are wonderful people around us, like our
Yeah.
neighbors, our city, our community, right? Like there's so many people there that we all have
Yeah.
some sort of goal or shared goal that we can actually achieve together. So, and then also and a network, right? Together, like you being where you are, Chris, and where you are, Kate, and us bringing that together. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great place to end. Unless you have
Yeah.
more you would like to add.
No,
Okay.
that's it. Yeah, I just wanted to see what you guys thought. But so
Oh, I think that's great.
yeah.
Well said. I am sure we'll be having more discussions because I really enjoy talking to you too about this and just look at the stuff. We always, and I know I said this last time we did a video, and I've said it probably a couple times when we do this. We meet before we do our live because there's so much energy on what it is we want to talk about. So we want to kind of like talk it out and say like, what are we going to get into? But we're not scripting it.
We
We're
don't actually cover what we're talking about. I mean,
Well, we're talking about cults before?
Yeah.
we were talking about cults because we've all had experience dealing with them in some way or other, and all stepped away from anything that was remotely that way, moving away from it. But we didn't need to get into that tonight. That's like maybe another time or not.
Or not.
I think that the whole thing about community is the way that we're doing it. Everyone's going to find their way. But hey, thank you for watching and listening. And we look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right.